the original Groundhog jog 4-miler out in Punxsutawney today. Finished 6th overall in 25:40 or 25:46. Not really sure which one it is. The picture's a little bit fuzzy that I took, the results. So it's one of the two. Not that I'm really concerned either way. I finished 2nd overall in my age group. This is the medal that they gave us this year. Alright kind of day, temperature-wise for the race. Probably 22 to 25 degrees when we started. I mean, definitely cold, but it's been colder. The conditions been way worse. So I'll take today the conditions over some past years. Roads were all clear. It's just a little sketchy in Gobbler's Knob, but they had a bunch of straw and stuff down, so it really wasn't too difficult to navigate through without tripping. So that was nice. I'm trying to think here. Coming in, I really didn't have much expectations for the race today. There was like 362, I think, last night pre-registered when I looked. And I was just figuring maybe I would get like a top 15 at best, maybe a top 10 if something fell into my lap. I really wasn't, like I said, expecting much with how out of shape that I am right now and just lack of training. So, whatever. My expectations were kind of low. I didn't have a time goal just because it would fluctuate so much for being out of shape. I really didn't want to think about it. I didn't even look at my past year's times. I've done the race 6+ times now, I would say at least. And I just was tired all week this week. And even last night I was like crashing early, and surprisingly I took a huge ass shit this morning. I was happy about it to get my pre-race done, but it was a lot bigger than I expected before I left. And even at the race here when I got there, Barclay Square, I took another one. So I don't know if I'm sick or whatever, because I did take some NyQuil last night before bed because I had a little bit of cough. Whatever. So I'm still not 100% on my A game, far from it. Maybe like a C, we'll just call it a C. It's probably another month before I get in A shape. But anyway, pretty decent crowd this morning. Funny story, I guess. Well, not really funny because it sucked, but I went and got my bib this morning in the fire hall. I got there early enough so I didn't have to rush around like I did some previous years. Walking back to my car, forgetting my bib. There's a little icy spot along the one sidewalk. Fucking biffed it. Dude, my legs completely just went from out underneath me. I just did like a quick little fall down and got right back out like it didn't happen. I don't know how many people saw me, if anybody actually did, but I was down and out before anything. That was right before I shit at Barclay Square. But anyway, so that was kind of an interesting little thing this morning. And then after I shit, I was getting ready to go back to my vehicle, and I'm filling my pockets. I'm like, shit, where's my car keys? I'm like checking, I was like, did I leave them in the car or whatnot? But I distinctively remember stepping out of the car and hitting the button to lock it. So I was like, all right, they're not there. So I went back where I fell because I was like, shit. I was like, they fell out when I went and biffed it. I was like, I hope somebody didn't pick them up yet, because it'll be a pain in the ass to try to find somebody that has them. Like, you know, if they took them to the cops or something, it just would have been a pain in the ass to find whoever picked them up and took them to. Luckily, they were right there where I fell, probably like 2 feet away from where I fell, so they did fly out a little bit. So thankfully I didn't have to worry about that, because I didn't have my shoes or any of my race gear on me. So that was a little side note this morning. Got ready, really didn't warm up too much. before the race, I just jogged back to the start line from my car, jogged around a little bit, maybe 100 yards or something like that. Again, since I wasn't really excited about the race just because I knew it was going to be a bad performance, I didn't really care too much. I actually got a free entry for being a top 3 last year, which is one of the reasons why I came, because I really didn't want to get out of bed this morning, to be honest with you. Anyway, get to the start line, I look around, I'm like, all right, so maybe there isn't going to be as many top end as I thought, but I still really wasn't motivated. I didn't even zone in at all. I just listened to podcasts the whole way to the race this morning, so I didn't even try to get into the mentality of race mode. I never actually got into race mode whatsoever during the whole race, or even like zone into my music at all to give me motivation. Sort of just, well, I heard the music today more than I probably normally would, but it's just more blanked out than anything. We started on time this year, which is the 10 o'clock race. I think last year we ended up staying out there for a few more minutes, and then I got cold. But it was 10 o'clock sharp this year. There was a ton of people already mingling inside that Barclay Square and around downtown Punxsutawney when I got there, like 9:30ish. So I didn't really get to see too many people before the race, not getting to the start line until a couple of minutes before. I think, let me see, I was 6th overall, so there was a group of 4 that took off in front of me from the start. I don't know if there was anybody else with them and jogged back or not, but I distinctly remember there was like 4. Like AJ Kelly was up there, and then the top 3 overall males were up in this little like group. AJ led for a while, then he got in the mix of them. I was only a couple seconds behind him, probably no more than 5 seconds, even midway up the hill, just plugging along. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't in a race mode or really pushing hard. I was just going to let things play out. And if something fell in my lap where I could take a top 3, I was going to take it. Still wasn't expecting that as I was watching the top 4 in front of me. I'm like, unless something happens, you should probably already plan to play for position, and that's sort of what I was doing the whole time. But again, halfway up the hill, I'm still only maybe 5 seconds behind that lead 4 people. And then towards the top, as I slowly started to fall back a little bit, because I didn't really want to redline or push myself too hard, I did get past. So then I was in 6th place. I was just going through the motions, because it is a really steep hill to start the race. I forget how many 100 feet. I want to say probably 250 to 350 to start in that first like 1.5 miles out of the 4 miles. It's definitely a steep hill, and it's definitely a long, over a mile long climb to start the race. So I was burning from lack of training. Well, I knew the course, I knew what to expect, and I knew once we get through Gobbler's Knob, it's downhill, so you got to save yourself a little bit so you don't burn up and then not have nothing the rest of the race. So that played a little bit factor. It really wasn't windy from what I can remember up top, because I was asked about that. I just remember being a few degrees cooler up top, but it's also all open, so that's a factor. So I had 5th in front of me. Tried to look back a few times. I couldn't really tell what was happening behind me, but I probably had 20 seconds plus from somebody else. And I was just going to buy my time in the Gobbler's Knob. So as we come around the sharp, long turn, looking back, trying to figure out, how much effort I have to put in through the rest of the race, because once you get up there, you could sort of judge who has it, who doesn't, and the effort that you're going to have to put in. As I said, I was pretty confident. As long as I maintained, I'd be all right with my 6th place. I wanted to stay in that 6th, so that would guarantee me a top 3 age group. I wasn't sure what the ages were ahead of me, but I knew AJ was at least in my age group, but I didn't get a good look at the other 3 top runners. And that guy who passed me in 5th, I couldn't really tell because he had a beard. I was like, all right, he could be 20, he could be 40, you know. It's one of those with that, like, the looking beards, and I didn't really look at his face to get a really distinctive look. So I was like, all right, so stay 6, and you should be able to get it. 7th at the most to guarantee a top 3 in your age group. So that's what I was shooting for. Get in the Gobbler's knob. They had the gates and stuff up already to control people and traffic in there, like metal barriers, which are never usually there for the race. 5th went a little bit off course because he didn't know it. I knew the course, so I closed the gap a little bit on him in Gobbler's knob. And that's where it did get a little sketchy a little bit. There was a couple of people just walking around all paying attention on their phones. There was, like, I know distinctively a mother and a child just on their phone, just like walking straight across on an angle as I'm trying to run. And I'm like, hey, I go like right in between them because they're not paying attention. So that was my first close call. And it was just like, you could tell the people weren't paying attention. And then when I would say what I call the chute up at Gobbler's knob, it's like the middle of where they actually do the Groundhog ceremony. I'm going to call it the chute. There's just like people lined up on one side the whole way down it, which we actually have to run down for the race, which they might have to fix that or just tell people they can't use it for that hour that the runners use it. Anyway, there was a few people on the other side, and a couple of times people were like pulling their loved ones over. Nobody knew that I was coming in like from behind because all I could see was backs. And there was a couple of times like one woman was reaching over to her son or whatever. I'm like, don't. I didn't even say no. I just said don't. And like I startled her, and she like pulled her hand up. You know, people just weren't paying attention, not realizing that there was a race going on. Not that they should know, but somebody there should have made aware that, hey, there's a race going on, stay to one side, or not have people actually use the chute and come in from like the right if they want to take a picture of the actual Gobbler's knob ceremony area, which, if you don't know, is like 1.8 miles away from downtown Punxsutawney. It's not like Groundhog's Day movie where it's downtown. It's actually out of town, like 1.8 miles away from the actual Barclay Square. It's a little tidbit of information for people. So we go down through that. Again, it was a little aggravating having to yell at people, but I said don't. And that's actually when I was back in 5th place, over that guy who finished 5th overall. I got past him there because, like I said, he went the wrong way a little bit. I wasn't sure of the trail, so I got ahead of him. He's probably thankful that I was yelling at people, or was ahead of him at that point, so he didn't have to yell or do anything. But I'm used to yelling at people. So then we go through there. We go out around a little gravel road to hit the road to come back into town. It was at least decently maintained this year, that gravel part, before popping back out on the road. And then I knew from there it was all basically downhill to the last couple tenths. And I was dropping like maybe 530, 540s just because all the free speed, probably the adrenaline too from having to yell at people. I did gap the guy who finished 5th a little bit there. But then again, looking back behind me, I really didn't care because you could see that 20-30 second gap in between me and the next, or what would have been like 7th place. And even at one point, I did backpedal a little bit as I'm running. Like, I turned my body to look back fully. It was like running backwards down the one hill, and that's when Fifth passed me back up as I was doing that. He probably like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, I probably would have thought that too, but I was just trying to figure out the effort I had to maintain and how close people were behind me. So that's why I did that. And then once he passed me, I was like, I really don't care. I was like, 5th or 6th doesn't matter as long as I'm at top 3 in age group. So from there, I just maintained on the downhill. Did try to take out some of the tangents and cut the corners on the course and some of those windy road areas. And I started to recover a little bit because I was starting to feel it on the top of the hill, like nauseous or just feeling like red line. But I did recover on the downhill some. For the most part until like the very bottom, and then I started feeling it again. I knew if I pushed harder I would have got sick, so I definitely wasn't going to do that. Top 4 were completely out of sight by the time we made the right hand turn, not out of Gobbler's Knob, but like a 10th down the road, like where you make this right to come back into town. They were completely out of sight by then. And then I just had the guy who finished 5th, and then whoever was 7th behind me. I think it was actually a woman who was 7th overall, first female behind me, like that 20 seconds. At least I saw long hair. I'd have to look at the results. Anyway, I was just trying to stay ahead of that person the rest of the race. There was a couple people running towards us at the bottom of the hill, just people not racing, just locals. Yeah, the once we got to the bottom, made the couple turns, the way to make it right onto the bridge coming into town. 5th was a little bit confused there which way to go, so I caught back up to him real quick, and then he just flew off again. But again, I wasn't going to put forth the effort to try to keep up with him. Just made it back in, made that quick other right turn, finished on that one back street for a couple, like 3/10 before heading into the finish line with that 25-40 range. So overall, I'm happy. Could it have been better? Yes. How much better? I don't know, because I look at the results after the race. That is about average for me. As far as time-wise goes. So I don't know how much more I'm actually capable of, but I'll take it. And again, overall, I'm happy with it. Just an overall good day. The only thing I have to say is there was a bunch of distilleries and stuff like that in the square this year. Was going to get some food, but the lines were kind of long. But I did get a free beanie. Let me see if I can pull it out real quick. It was, yeah, I know you had a hashtag visit PA. The greater, I forget what it was called. I have to look again because I don't want to mess it up. They were doing like a promo thing. You can get sunglasses or a beanie if you tag hashtag visit PA when you took a picture in front of this one sign. So I did that. And I just came home. I did a quick loop around Barclay Square. But again, I would say 85 to 90% were just like breweries or distilleries. There was a couple food vendors, and then there was a couple craft vendors. And there was a band playing. Not really. They actually had some putt-putt golf, an inflatable axe throwing thing, but really not much kid stuff today. And there was a hell of a line to see actually like Phil at the library, because that's where they keep Phil all year long, is at the Punxsutawney Library, if you don't know. Other than that, that was my good roundup. I think I was pretty good, informative. Just body-wise, being out of shape sucks. That's the only thing I could really complain about or say. It was just nice that they had the biggest crowd ever, and the kid who won set the course record, so the race definitely did grow and get faster this year. Of course, the conditions were conducive to that as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. And it's only up from here, I guess.